of those, it was like, and I'm like, I'm not going to be able to drink this whole thing. I'm going to have to fill it back up.
Oh. How many coffees do you have a day?
Good question. How much coffee do you drink a day, Scott?
It's a lot.
And you add sugar. You add sugar to it. I don't add sugar.
Not if it's hot coffee, 0 sugar.
Okay.
I can understand
hot coffee, 1 like half a teaspoon. If it's iced coffee, I call it coffee milk. Sugar and cream.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I think that's
So
fair.
I have I will have a teaspoon of sugar in my morning cup of tea if I have one in the morning, which is basically on days off. Yeah, exactly.
You have to understand though, aside from tabletop RPGs, like sugar is my addiction. It's like, and it's really bad. I've actually tried to kick it before, and like it's not easy. It's a very difficult thing to
more addictive than a lot of drugs. Sugar is.
Yeah, and like I'm talking like actively pursued the reduction of sugar, and I just ended up eating way more fruits and shit like that, which isn't horrible, but anyway.
It's just sugar in a different form.
Fruit is a better form of sugar, I believe, than like standard.
It's natural sugar. Natural sugar is better than processed sugar all day.
Let me give you an example. So I had dinner last night on stream with Doxy's show. After we got off stream, it was like after 3 in the morning. I then went and cut up strawberries, had that with Cool Whip and chocolate chips before I went to bed, and that was like.
That sounds nice. Enjoy yourself.
But I went to bed like 15 minutes afterwards. Like, so, I mean, it was
sugar energy into the useful fat that you need.
Like, luckily, you know, I get a decent.
You're gonna be safe for winter. You'll be fine to hibernate.
Hold on, a decent metabolism? No, you have Dad's metabolism where you could eat this and not gain an ounce. So screw you, decent metabolism.
I haven't gained weight in like 10 years.
I have a good metabolism.
Eating what you just mentioned. Where if I eat that, I put on 1.5 pounds and I look in the mirror and call myself ugly.
There are two things that have made me gain weight. One was when I was around...
You said ugly, so I thought Ollie. William, we think you're beautiful.
Listen.
Especially the majestic beard growth.
You are beautiful. I have already commented on that.
I have 1/4 the beard capacity that you do, which is upsetting because I was the first one in the family and friends to have a beard. And Will's like, ha! No student defies my power. You were trying to talk on your own stream.
You're aware we've been live for 4 minutes now.
Oh, of course you are. You know how this works by now.
Yeah, Ollie said we're going live in 5. I just assume it's happening no matter what's being said.
It's happening no matter what. It's a force of nature.
The fans appreciate a little bit of, like...
People know what they're getting into when they come to Ardent.
Or
Wednesdays in general.
Neil made a suggestion of a tirade I should go on to the beat, but I was like, I can't do that because it's gonna make it long.
It was another Harry Potter thing.
Okay.
Oh God, was it?
Where we left off last time.
I gotta log in.
Fuck's sake, Scott. Where we left off last time, you were arrested.
Olirant?
And now begins the long legal process. It's a courtroom drama episode. No, you were arrested. You came. You broke out. You came in between there and here apparently. You broke out because Tomaz and Anna are strong, and Tomaz hacked the place. But while you were trying to break out, basically one of the people in charge of the place said, "Hey, no, work for us because your ship is useful because you're a weird sort of hodgepodge group and you have a merchant ship." And you were given a job to bodyguard a large cargo vessel by the name of the Flowering Rose because a terrorist attack has... They basically, like, announced that they're going to attack the ship. So you're there to bodyguard and try and make sure nothing bad happens to it. The session ended just around a time where you are preparing your ship and they're preparing their ship to leave.
I think Neil wants to speak.
Would say, I think it's important to note, it sounds like we were picked to guard it. We're picked to guard it and prevent sabotage, and then if it gets attacked, call in the fleet.
Yes.
It's not like you're the only heroes.
No, it's much more of a sort of...
No one knows who you are.
Yeah, prevent a problem or call for help. But you are aware that help probably can't come as quickly as you there. Which will become more apparent in moments. So where it left off is you are on an actual low orbital platform on the planet of Pike, where the Flowering Rose is being loaded up with cargo, but it's more just a sort of maintenance cargo space. Mostly maintenance cargo space, and sort of places for the people who work on these big cargo ships to relax, to drink, to gamble, to do all the things that you need to do when you aren't on a spaceship all the time. Your ship is being fixed up. Tomaz is working with the engineering crew of the Flowering Rose to do that. And before we ended last time, it was Davis who basically said he wants to go over all of the officers aboard the Flowering Rose, and that is essentially being organized for you. So, the stream is going to start on a morning, because you basically had a day of partying, then a day of kind of like productive work, and now the next day starts with Davis having a notification on his I nearly said Omni tool because fucking Mass Effect on his data pad of they are going to have the Flowering Rose is having their pre-mission meeting of the officers.
A little question.
Go ahead.
This morning, where does it start? Like, do we?
That's up to you. It's up to you whether you were in the room that you bought or back on the ship. There's no real reason to be off the ship. Because it's being maintenanced, the main reactor is going down, so you are charged for the power while you're here, but it's still mostly fine.
So long as he's not being incredibly foolish like he was that first night that he was trying to cope, I think it's perfectly fine to have
Jason.
Jason, there it is. Wait, no, it isn't. It says Neil H because he sucks at life. Was to have Jason at the hotel room and everybody else normal, right? Does that sound correct?
I mean, you could all have hotel rooms if you want.
Jason, do we have to watch after you to make sure you don't explode your liver?
No, I think after that first night of explosion, it would not be as apparent.
Okay. Cool.
I just want to point out that the other day on the Sunday show, I made fun of Scott and Neil for where they sit on cameras, and I made fun of them like being like this sometimes, and Neil was, and it amused me greatly. That's all. I just wanted to throw some shade.
I often sit all the way back to the wall and put my feet up on my desk.
We don't want no foot cam here.
This is my feet are on my desk.
I know,
right now.
but you're tiny. Anyway, yes.
Scott's actually a tiny man already.
It's not true.
It's just I try to make it all the same size, and Ian and Will are they stay still. Even if
but
they
they're
fidget,
also bigger than me.
If they fidget, they stay in the same sort of place. Scott's all over the place.
You're 5'11", aren't you, Scott?
Yeah.
You're probably taller than me then. I'm about 5'10", maybe 5'11" at a stretch.
Oh, really? Oh, I thought you were a little taller.
Nah.
Ah, you gave me that like 6'1" vibe.
Now, I was thinking Ian was really short for some reason. I don't know why.
Oh, really?
Like way shorter than that.
Like
I don't know why.
Neil, I smell it like a 5'5", pretends to be 5'8". You know what I mean? Like,
I'm unfortunately I've not quite hit 6 foot.
yeah, of course you haven't, because you're like fucking 5'5", pretending to be 5'8".
You just wait. It's gonna hit you one day. You'll see me and you'll be like, holy shit, he's taller than me.
That's not.
And then you'll see Dean and you'll be like,
whoa! Who let this giant
that surprised
in?
me when I heard that about Dean. I was like, what?
Dean is surprisingly tall, yes.
He's
Anyway,
low-key,
At 5'5",
low-key,
I'm a
a
runt
giant.
in my family, so I'm used to going high person.
We get it, Scott. You have a tall family.
Scott only married his wife just so he could feel like he was tall, actually.
It's right. It's compensation.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
Someone to look down on.
Yeah, that. Or like buying a big car when you have a little, what's going on with the stream?
So, inconclusive about whether you were back on the ship or not? I think the answer was yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Then you would be back in the ship with Tomaz, because you share a room.
Yep.
Where you get your notification noise. And Davis strikes me as the kind of person who has notification noises on, but they're default.
Wait, I'm the captain now. I don't share a room.
Oh, see, that was the thing. I didn't actually think you were going to take the captain's quarters.
Oh yeah, like
You do?
I will put all my effort into getting the captain back, and if I cannot get the captain back, then
Okay, then in the captain's quarters. Never mind.
Wow.
The captain's quarters are very tasteless,
that's
as I described
appropriate.
before.
And I will leave it as such.
Okay.
No, but is it tasteless because there's nothing there, or is it tasteless because
No, it's tasteless because there's
bad?
lots of things there.
Yep, I leave everything in its exact place. I just wash the sheets and blankets before I start using them.
Even like that moldy sandwich he's got like over on the side.
Okay, anything that's not food.
So you get the notification.
Should I tell you about the container I found in my brother's bed? No.
So you get the notification, Scott. The captain.
Yeah.
Captain Scott.
I respond to go.
And who are you taking?
Oh, I mean, mine. Okay, fair enough.
If I'm waiting, there's a reason.
My apologies. So I get the notification, and I'm like, I'll actually send the notification. I don't respond right away. I'll send a notification to Tomas. Ping him to come to. I'm not going to meet him in the captain's quarters because that place is disgusting. To meet probably in my former room because I'm still in the middle of transition.
When I get the message, I would just show up. Well, I'm in my room, so I'm just there. I just say here.
You mean he's like, you mean not my room?
You mean
Yeah,
you
it's
mean
just
my
his
room?
room
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Meet me in my former quarters.
So I'll walk in and be like, "Good morning, Tomas. How's the day been treating you thus far?"
It's been all right. Just getting ready to keep fixing this thing up.
I'm sure things are moving about in a proper manner. Everything's going well.
Yeah.
Have you put much thought into what we had discussed?
To be honest, I have, and I'm just too busy. I'm too busy. I can't take that responsibility. It's too much paperwork for me.
It's unfortunate, but I expected it. I understand. So why don't we just cut it off here because there's no reason to press the issue any further. Keep me updated on the reports, and at least for now, you have your own room. So hope you enjoy it.
Oh, I will. And you see there's he already put stuff on your side of the room.
It's like he has his brush sitting next to. I haven't taken down my picture of my mom yet. Definitely no picture of my mom over there. So I'll leave him and just go to the speak to Anna and be like, Anna, I'm going. So I go walk up to her, be like, good morning, Anna.
She would be sort of just probably eating breakfast, because it's kind of a nice and relaxed atmosphere around the ship, and also she's aware there's maybe an hour of leeway before the ship gets filled with engineers trying to fix things again. So she's trying to get the morning routine done extra fast.
I can see that you have your hands full, but I am about to head off to a meeting with, the other ship. I was curious as to whether or not you'd like to come along for the inquiry of their crew.
If you want me to, Captain. I don't know what use I'd be, unless I recognized anyone.
Not a matter of recognizing. Sometimes you get so engrossed in conversation, you miss the finer details. It'd be a different angle.
Okay, Captain. I mean, I think Rain might be better for something like that than me. I mean, she's empathic.
Been a nervous wreck since. No, she's not. She's a teleporter.
Wow, you just calling her a piece of equipment.
She has empathy. She understands people better than.
She's also been a nervous wreck since the incident. So until we can see that she's completely in,
wouldn't it
tip-top shape,
make her feel better to make her feel useful?
I'd rather have somebody useful during a time where it's important than someone that needs a little bit of coddling at the moment.
I will follow your commands, Captain. And she'll get up, put a jacket on.
Mm-hmm. She's, mind you, sitting right next to her at the table eating her.
Rain was just in the kitchen.
Jason
Sad
is actually,
guitar.
He is actually sitting there with a coffee and a compad, raises an eyebrow when you say that.
No, I was private, of course.
But it was just in the living room.
Yeah.
But yeah.
To be honest, I sort of get the feeling that Rain wouldn't be awake yet.
Yes.
So it's safe.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll bring her with me to the meeting.
You're not taking any of the other player characters?
I mean, I would. There's a conversation I want to have with Jason before we press on, but that's going to be a private conversation, and he's busy doing his shit right now, so it's going to be kind of
He's just having a coffee, scrolling through his compad, looking at the local news,
looking at Reddit.
But it's one of those things too,
Yeah.
where I'm also trying to get Anna into a different circumstance because the person I wanted to be my first officer has just turned it down. So I have to. This is almost.
Okay.
She doesn't realize this is an interview, so you know.
Sure.
Well, he's like, now she's gonna fail it.
Yeah.
You know, well, you're taking an NPC on a PC's job.
Yep.
Don't send an NPC to do a PC's job.
I asked the PC, and one said, "I'm sleeping," and the other said, "I'm too busy," and the other said,
No, he
I
said he
kill
was
people.
too
I
busy to
didn't
do
say I
another
wouldn't
thing.
go with
You
you. I
didn't-
was
you
too
didn't say
busy to
anything.
accept your second mate job
You
or
didn't say
whatever.
anything about going to this meeting.
"Yeah,
Yeah.
but the meeting's important for the first officer."
Is it?
So therefore, you're excluding anyone else from the first officer.
Yes.
That's true.
not true.
But yeah, if you don't bring anyone else,
Yeah,
that's fine.
conversation.
If you're having a private conversation with Jason before, is that something that's happening here, or is it happening?
That would probably have to happen afterwards, just because it makes sense to have it happen afterwards.
Okay.
So
So Anna would waste no time about putting her jacket on and bringing her pistol, because why not? And heading over. Heading over to the Flowering Rose is a little bit of an experience because it's a very large vessel. It's so large that actually it can't be any lower than it is right now because it's not designed to go in atmosphere. It will just start falling apart and crumpling under its own weight. So you have to go up like a long mag-lift elevator.
Oh,
up
it's
to
like
the-
a whale out of water.
like a whale out of water. And it's not, they've not even added most of the cargo yet. The interesting thing, which I imagine probably most of you would find enjoyable to watch, is if you're sitting outside, you can see them like lifting cargo containers into it. And it's pretty, it's a thing. But she'll be just kind of quiet. The whole lift ride up, and you can go right to the bridge where the bridge meeting is taking place. When you do, the captain of the Flowering Rose, who is a older man by the name of Delag, goes up to Davis and shakes his hand again. You've already talked to him once. You actually asked him to be on this meeting. And he's like, "I'm happy to see you again, Davis. It's I'm just glad to have you here, and you're always welcome in these meetings. We like to have one before every job. It's guild rules, but it's just honestly smart business to make sure that everything's operating properly."
it's a pleasure to see you as well. Shaking his hand back with a firm grip.
He'll like motion to like chairs have been set up in sort of a circle. But you're in the bridge, you're not in like a meeting room. Though this ship does have a meeting room, actually before the bridge, like you go past it to enter the bridge. It is in the bridge, and it's just him there now. Anna kind of looks around because you didn't bring her in here last time, so she very obviously is walking around looking at their setups, while people start coming in. The first is the engineering officer, Gordon. You already know him. He called your ship the Cream Pie the other day. But he's been working with Tomaz the last few days. Turns out he's a pretty good lad. He's just a lad. But I mean, he's an older male, but he's still a lad. And he'll probably even say hi to you because he's been seeing you around the ship. But kind of sit down, have his compad full of meeting details and things, because getting the engineering report is probably one of the most important reports.
I'm just glad the lad has a compad.
I like that. Next up is the comms officer, who is a slender small man who's wearing sort of like a sweater and a kind of a longer jacket that's almost reminiscent of a long coat, lab coat, but doesn't really quite go that way. Got glasses, wiry hair. He sort of walks in and is like, "Oh, we have someone new here on it. Are you a new officer?
I look to them like they're referring to me or they're
Yeah.
referring to Anna.
Well, probably both of you. Like, imagine you're sitting down and she's walking around. So it would be like start talking at Anna and then notice you and probably address you.
Okay. I wait to see if the other captain chimes in and says anything.
Yeah, the captain says it was in the memo that there would be the people from the Magpie were going to be here in the meeting and look and sort of just check that everything's shipshape. And he's like, that seems entirely reasonable, I suppose. My name's Val.
I will stand up to shake Val's hand. I won't like remain sitting or anything like that or whatever. Assuming I was sitting. I don't know if we sat yet, but I will shake Val's hand.
I imagine you sat because you just had to wait.
It's like Captain Davis Nielsen of the Magpie.
The captain. They brought the captain. That's interesting. Definitely a pleasure meeting you, and going to be a pleasure working with you, I'm sure. But I mean,
what's your position on this vessel?
I'm the communications officer.
This right here is Anna Xavier. She's the chief pilot.
She'll kind of give like an up nod, and he kind of gives several nods because he's clearly not cool enough to understand the nod code. He sits down and has like several compads that he's starting to flick through and go through. And actually, there's a little terminal that's been set up in the center, and he starts adjusting that, like setting up like what they need to talk about. The third person to enter is their pilot, who is a woman in her prime, and she walks in, she kind of looks down her nose at you, and she looks at the captain and says, I do want you to know that it is against Guild Regulation 32.B to have members that are not an officer or someone, a member of the crew that has been appointed by an officer to be part of a pre-mission meeting. And the captain's like, yeah, but extraneous circumstances. Extraneous circumstances must be pre-warned in advance to the guild, as is said in subsection D of the following. And she's like, I know. I've been working on this ship as long as you. I just want to make sure that you know that you are breaking the rules, and I will not be there to defend you when you come against the board of directors. And she sort of goes and checks the piloting station for a bit.
When she finishes that conversation, I'll say, "Excuse me."
Yes.
I would love to have a copy of the manual, since I'm going to be working with you under the rules of this organization. Perhaps I should know those rules inside and out myself. Could you send a copy to me?
Yes. I mean, I think that's very appropriate. Sort of do the old swoosh of the Merchants Guilds.
I hit like a medium alert on it for myself for later.
Yeah. You would probably very much enjoy reading it. And the last person to enter, at this point, Anna sort of sits down like beside you and maybe even glances at her compad because, you know, she's sort of been linked in with the meeting, what they got to talk about. I mean, she is a pilot who's done like other pilot jobs in the past, so she does have a degree of interest and knowledge in these kind of things. But the last person to enter is their gunnery officer. Now remember, this ship does have a gun and so he's probably more like a sort of self-defense officer and stuff. But immediately he doesn't look like he belongs with the rest of them. He's a big man with a dramatic face tattoo of a skull, like sort of over his head. He's walking in with a gun, and not like a pistol that's stowed like you and Anna, like a rifle on his back, a carbine. And he sort of walks in and slings that over his shoulder and sits down and is just sort of like, huh, okay. And you get a notification on your compad from Anna after a few moments. Like, I do recognize that one.
I'll respond back pretty quickly because I was probably in the middle of typing a message, delete, and be like, funny enough, I was going to inquire as to whether or not you'd be interested in introducing yourself. What do you know?
She will introduce herself to him, be like, well, I'm Anna Xavier, I'm the pilot of that ship. And he's like, name's Thompson. I'm the gunner. And, a little bit of benign conversation happens. And she types to you that she actually recognizes him from a smuggling ship that operated in and around Pike quite a long time ago. Not one she worked on, but, she recognizes the crowd. He didn't have the tattoo then. And she figures the tattoo he probably got in prison. Looks like a prison tat.
Is it possible to snap an image of the tattoo, or does he have a tattoo on his profile within their database?
If the ID card, it would have that tattoo on it. Yeah.
Perfect. I'm going to ping. I'm going to ping like a note for myself for later on to run a systems check to find out if that has any known affiliations. But or even just like quickly draft that up and send that over to Rain. But like, it's low priority, so it wouldn't like ping her until she woke up and actively checked her messages or something.
Yeah, I like that. I like that concept of like low priority messages that don't like make a notification unless you're using the device.
Yeah,
because it's the future.
1, 2, or 3 exclamation points.
Not everything has to be obnoxious.
No. Okay, cool. So that's everybody. That's everybody. Comms, gunnery, pilots. That's everybody. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And with that, the meeting starts to take place, and it's something that Davis finds interesting, and it's good that you brought Anna along. 'Cause like I said, she actually finds a lot of this interesting too. Although, just with her sort of attitude, she's a little gruff, but she'll even bring up some points. It's mostly going over that the ship is absolutely, like, what state the ship's in, what the cargo is going to be, what the expected journey is going to be, all of that sort of thing.
She's more familiar with this organization, the workings of it, and certainly how our ship has a reputation of dealing with things like this than I do. I have a military background. They are not a military op, so it's having her here really adds an extra
exactly
slew of skills.
Exactly. So she does bring some things up, especially she brings up how that your ships have to tether through punch, which is a hard thing to do but a possible thing to do, and that this cargo ship is designed to do it because a big cargo ship would have to have small cargo ships.
Not that we're riding their punch, that we're trying to like sync them so we go to the same place, same time. Okay, cool. I was like,
so
wait,
essentially you're traveling beside each other.
Yeah. It's like a wormhole together as opposed to just our own separates. Okay.
Exactly. Which is the same sort of logic you could use to trace someone and chase them if they punched as well.
And I imagine I'm familiar with this from military background because you would do...
You would have multiple ships move at once.
Yeah, exactly. Armada punches. So, yep.
But it's hard. It's harder to do than standard, but because this is a very internal route of the known worlds, it's not gonna. It doesn't actually cause any troubles because there's tiered difficulties and it ends up evening out. Just so you know the route, if you have the map up, you're going to be going pretty much as expected to Quartos, but particularly to the moon of Quartos called Wace. Then you're going to Novus, where you would be going to Novus proper, and then to Jorinth, which is probably what you expected. That is the route it takes. All the roses take, they just go at alternating times. Is there any questions
Neil, but that's cool. Just Neil. Neil thinks he's helpful.
Neil likes drawing on the maps to give little icons and things. Is there any questions you would ask, or are you good?
So I'm more or less. So one of the things I would probably do is I'd ask to make a administrative check to kind of like see the structure of their meetings, how they go about them, keep note of them for the future, just like why I was going to suggest to read it.
Yeah.
But also I want to make like a what's it called? What's that? Perceive. Or was
charisma?
Notice charisma check. So kind of like read everybody to see their investment into the mission itself.
Absolutely.
I want to make like a lead check to see his quality of leadership over the rest of the crew. And then finally, if anything pops up that Anna or I note, and this can be done later on if need be, a no check to see if there's anything pertinent that comes from it. So more or less roll dice and say, Ollie, tell me what I know.
give me them in order.
Sure. So first it's administer what? Administer intelligence?
Administer intelligence. This is more or less, their practices and things, whether anything's out of the ordinary for this organization or just this ship.
Ollie, just so you know, because we did ding at the end of last session, I did not spend all of my skill points. I still have 3 unspent skill points. I was holding on to them, just so you're aware, okay?
Okay. It is within your rights to do that.
Yeah. I just didn't know if you cared to know that stuff, so.
I'm mildly interested. I discussed it with everyone else, but you fucked off before the stream, as you often do, because you don't actually love me.
No, I took like a half-hour nap.
No, you didn't.
I legit took a half-hour nap.
How do you take a half-hour nap? Anyway, Minister Jack.
I tired him out.
Intelligence or charisma, actually, up to you.
All right, so I'll do administer intelligence. That makes sense to me.
It makes more. Yeah, you would have got different things.
Yeah. All right, hold on. Let me just make this bigger. Okay, good. Administer intelligence. No modifier, correct?
No mod. So the ship's sort of organization of doing a pre-mission meeting is pretty standard. I mean, you're used to more military ships, but even then, it's that same sort of concept. It seems like everyone here is pretty good at their job. Everything is very well organized. Very much the person who is the most organized, which is not a surprise, is their pilot, Carolyn, who is very organized to the extent of all her notes have notes of what she's noting about in reference to other things and all that sort of stuff.
That's cute.
Yeah. And the person who seems less invested... Actually, that's your next roll, because you're doing a Notice Charisma.
Yep. So I will do that next. Notice Charisma was the second
When it comes to their job and their work, all of them seem pretty on top of it.
Yep. So their procedures are pretty solid. There's no complaints I have about it, and I'm going to cross-reference everything later on in the notebook.
Yeah, because you have the Merchant Guild book, and the Merchant Guilds, they work differently in every planet, but it's the same backbones.
So Notice Charisma was the number one. Mm-hmm. Was one of the 2 main things I wanted Anna here for. So do I get a bonus for having Anna? Or no?
Yeah, you'd get a +1 because she's also sort of doing it as well and looking around. I already gave you that freebie.
Mm-hmm.
With a 10, I mean, Thompson, who you've been looking at a little bit, is very much less invested than the others. At one point, he kicks over a can that he brought. He brought a can of an energy drink while he was, and he's just sort of sitting there, not talking as much. But you actually start to think there's it's mostly probably because he's a gunnery officer and he doesn't have a whole lot to discuss. There's sort of despite the threats.
Gun works.
Yeah, despite the threats, we don't think there's actually going to be any sort of risk. The gun works. That sort of thing. He doesn't have a lot to discuss or a lot to chip in about the other things because it seems clear that he's not from this kind of background. He does remind you a lot of Anna in that Anna has a lot of technical skill, but less natural organization from someone like you who was brought in an organized way.
Would it be Abby normal if my character is, because I have their profiles opened up, for me to be taking notes throughout the meeting?
No, exactly. That's why I had Anna message you, because they're all on their compads, because it's just how you do nowadays.
Cool. So I would have, because we of course have the database of what we were pulled before. Sorry to interrupt you for a second. I would want to have a separate, almost a side program or whatever, where I have all that stuff ported in, and then also be making an annotated section off to the side that kind of fills in more details over there, of things that I pick up along the way. Yeah. But this kind of information, I want to have it's held on our server of the Magpie.
You want to have a Google Docs.
Yeah, exactly. Is I held on our server the Magpie.
And that makes sense because that means Anna can be giving you context information as well.
So currently I have full access to everything that I'm uploading in there, and Anna does as well. But everybody else is locked out for the moment. So
yeah, I think that's entirely reasonable. And she would be pitching in things when she's trying to remember that sort of thing, and she thinks that prison tattoo might be linked to a gang. Most of them are.
We'll search later.
But yeah, that's the sort of stuff she adds to it. She finds the comm officer a little weird, but you're not sure if he's just weird or he's just a turbo nerd. He's clearly a very nerdy type who ultimately, being a comms officer requires a whole lot of technical skill and a lot of intelligence. That's why Jason's there, because he's a very intelligent person. You have to run a lot of programming, a lot of interactions between ships. And he's a very excitable person who seems very excited about the mission, even though it's a fairly normal one. Gordon is actually most excited about working with the Magpie. He's like, you've got to go over and see. We've been doing some beautiful work on fixing up the hull and stuff like that. And Dillag seems to be the one thing you notice is that Dillag gets along with everyone. The captain. Captain gets along with everyone. Everyone gets along with him. They even discuss other crew members and things. At one point, they literally do discuss that one of their crew members' birthdays is going to be during the travels, so they want to like save some good food for them.
There's a difference between having a person in a position of authority that everybody likes and a person in a position of authority that has authority. You can like somebody that has authority, or you can like somebody that doesn't.
Yeah, you would probably figure.
I'll roll my lead check just to see how much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that also lead charisma, Ollie? Is that like lead wisdom?
Either. You'd get different things with each.
I mean, charisma's a higher check for me, so it's like a higher.
I think charisma makes more sense.
Okay, then I'll do that one. Cool, because it's usually better for me, anyways. So, no bonus for that one from Anna, I don't think.
Nah.
Okay. Oh, Jesus.
You get the feeling, which is very much what you were putting down, of he's a little too nice, so there's a little less authority. But ultimately, this is the kind of vessel where, because it's unlike your vessel where you're basically doing jobs, you're always doing jobs dictated by the captain. Their jobs are dictated by a guild. So he's not the highest person on the rung.
He's a manager. Yep.
So he is a manager, which means he, as much as he probably should be more authoritative, he can get away with it to a good degree. And also you pick up that each of so they have differing numbers of people below them. And then there is a lot of people who just sort of do odd jobs around the ship. Because when it comes to unloading, you want a lot of hands. But everyone on the ship seems to be a good leader of their team. Yeah, aside from, the gunner, because he doesn't have a team. He kind of seems to be more in charge of just the random odd jobs people, but not all the time.
Okay. So awesome. So the cohesion is pretty good. A little, in some places unorthodox, but for the most part, actually pretty on point.
Pretty on good. Pretty on point. Very relaxed. You get the feeling of the crew as being very family, like a family, which is important because this is a pretty big crew.
Okay, so I only want to run through the paces once because I just really wanted to get a feeling of who they were for a general rule of thumb. And it's also good to have a face to put a name to a combative situation.
Exactly. So is this good enough for the meeting? Are you happy to head on out?
So it's one of those things where just to run them through the paces once, I would actually say to them, I would turn to the captain, Dulag, and be like, Captain, I had prepared for me a small scenario. Of course, it's designed to be fake, to see how it is that they react to the scenario. I was wondering if you'd be willing to have me upload it into your system to see how they handle with the simulation.
He sort of like rubs at his head and it comes off and says, this ship is not designed to run simulations, it's designed to run cargo. I think you might find a struggle trying to run something like that on our firmware.
It's just a small simulation. You're going to be reacting to some...
digital
more
stimuli.
or less, you'll be seeing some enemy vessels approaching. You'll be seeing how they'll be attacking the ship, so on and so forth. I'm just curious. Myself and my pilots are curious how it is that you guys are going to react to such things. If we need to see how we're going to react around you in these kind of scenarios, we need to see how you react in them. So, if you don't mind, I would like to upload this program in and watch.
Give me a lead charisma check. He sort of just is like, I just feel like you're going to actually struggle to do it. And at this point, Carolyn, the pilot's like, this is highly unorthodox and against regulations. I do not understand why this man needs to be here talking. Like, they're not buying it. They want no part of it. And you make the demand of the captain.
And I say, whether this is highly irregular or something that's routine, there are lives at stake in this task. Not just the ones that are under your commands, but the ones that are under mine. And I'm not going to go visit those friends and those family with caskets because you did not want to run the proper simulation before we took those lives into my hands.
When you say that, there's a sort of begrudging acceptance. And they all get to their stations in the bridge, which is designed to have more than just these people here, but the rest of them aren't on the ship, so they're just going to have to manage. And you go ahead and try to upload this thing. You are going to have to give me a program check because this is not a ship designed to do this.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'll actually give it to their programmer to upload it.
Okay,
I'll hand the responsibility off.
As you should, as a captain. and he just sort of would have liked to have been warned in advance about something like this.
Funny thing about war is that you don't always know when something's going to happen.
Actually, due to the nothing is random in the universe. Everything can be predicted if you have all the variables.
It's a cute theory until you have a laser flying at your engine. Please.
I found it very unlikely we're going to be fighting anyone with lasers. And he'll sort of press enter and start the simulation. I imagine it was exactly what you were kind of saying, where you were sort of just like...
Yeah, it's not like there's visuals that pop up. It's literally just like sensors.
It's simulated stuff on their terminals. Yeah, exactly.
It's too sweet.
Why don't you give me a notice charisma check? Actually, no,
Sure.
this would be a lead. This would be a lead check because you're trying
Same
to
idea though. I want Anna to be watching as well. So even if she doesn't add to my role, just to add something
she
to
would
the
she
conversation
would add
with
to
it.
your role here because
fine.
she would be fine with this sort of thing.
Is this lead charisma you said,
Oh,
or is it lead wisdom?
yeah. I was just thinking this is more of a lead wisdom, but you do have a +1 from Anna.
Okay, that's ends up equaling the same, but I'll do that. So
But it's all about
+1?
the point.
yeah, no. I agree with you because it could change the outcome.
So it's clear they're not into it. The whole point of running a simulation like this is it being a true simulation of what will or won't happen. And you've been involved in simulations where it's just, well, you're never going to get a realistic result because the people aren't going to take it seriously.
It's like when you play characters in D&D. You're like, well, I'm going to go run headlong into the dragon's mouth. That's a really good plan. Like, a person wouldn't do that.
And beyond that, this simulation is of their vessel being attacked by multiple craft. And none of them are that kind of person. The only person who gets actually fairly into it is the gunnery officer, because it's probably one of the only chances he's got to be a gunnery officer in a long time. Cool. And he kind of starts yelling orders at the others, kind of overacting the captain slightly. Of the lot of them, the captain does a fine job. He does what a ship in this way should do. He orders commands as he did, but he gets talked over by the gunnery officer, who goes into more of a leading role. The pilot does fine. She's one of the people who just didn't really get into it until she's maybe yelled into it a little bit more. The comms officer is just not... despite seeming like he would be into this sort of thing, his heart's really not in it, and it's just very evident that they're just not prepared for an attack of this scale. On top of that,
on top of the fact that it's just fake, and
on top of the fact it's just fake,
sprung on Ant's another ship. Yep, get it. Cool. So when we leave this scenario, because I'm sure you're about to wrap it up, when we leave it, I'm going to do like a draft up of notes about these different details. Those notes are mostly for us.
Yeah.
One note, the two things I'm going to send over to that ship. I'm going to give the captain a bit of a warning. Like, I'm sure you're already aware of this, but in stressful scenarios, you have your gunnery officer that's somebody that's looking to take the lead. Too many heads confuse the body. And then the other one is I'm going to do a line-by-line, over-analyze, incredibly detailed, cross-referencing with Anna, everything that the pilot did wrong and all the ways that the pilot could correct it, and send it directly to her as well as to the captain, saying, this is what I sent to her.
Do you do that while you're still there or as you're leaving, like down?
It's probably one of those things. By the time I'm comfortably on my ship, it's already done being drafted and painted.
Yeah,
because I'm drafting it and like I'm buttoning
exactly.
it up as
Like
I
you
walk
got
away.
an elevator, you got to like walk over back to your ship.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right that you leave the meeting and it's a pleasant goodbye over there. Quite rattled after that. You go and you send that back. You don't see a response, but Anna's like she's gonna be very mad.
She should be. That performance was disgusting. It was subpar for somebody who holds themselves in such high regards.
Well, honestly, that simulation was meant for a ship like ours, not a whale. But yes, you're right. I would have been fine in that situation if I was given a 5 minutes or so to get used to the feel of the seat.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you would be, which is why you're the pilot of our vessel, isn't it? He kept you around for a long time. And I'll say to her, like, you know our ship better than I'd say anybody else on it right now, except one.
Except one. All right.
And I'll as we like in the elevator ride, and as we kind of like right after we finish that, as we're finishing up our walk or whatever, I'll say, what are your plans for the future of, well, I suppose yourself on our vessel?
Keep piloting. Mostly.
Do you intend to continue piloting for this vessel, or do you have your feelers in other markets?
I like this ship. I like the people on this ship. If that ever changes, then I'll change the scene, but I don't really have any interest in much else. I do say, I mean, we're currently working for the Pike government, essentially, in one way or another. And I'm not against that. It just does make me think. I'm definitely preferring it than the Novus government. We're at least going to have more room to swing our arms. Just something I think about sometimes.
It is an interesting scenario we had thrown onto our lap, and we certainly need to resolve it before we can push forward with other plans. But we're going to make the best with what we have, aren't we?
What are those other plans? What are you thinking of doing with the ship when this is done?
I think all of us need to have a sit-down conversation of which direction each of us would like to take the ship in. I'm looking to command a vessel that wants to be commanded. I'm looking to make good and honest money for those that were interested in doing so. This is not a dictatorship by any stretch of the imagination, but it is one that has structure.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think
In the
structure.
meanwhile,
Yeah.
no, okay.
I think the structure stops us going into chaos. I've worked on a lot of ships that haven't had a good structure.
In the meanwhile, this is the scenario set before us. We will see it to its end, and at the very least, to make the more comfort for our captain.
You'll nod and you'll head back in, and the ship is alive with the noise of welding torches and machinery and all sorts of things.
Awesome. It's nice. Like it's almost like the ship's full of people and it's literally warm from like, all, like the cutting and buzzing.
Definitely
and torturing.
warm.
Yeah.
What else do you need to do, anyone?
I was just going to say that because Davis sent Rain, can you look this up, sort of thing, and Rain isn't very good with any of that sort of stuff. So you probably come back in and she's doing her best, but she's clearly bothered Jason into helping her. And she's sort of like on her compad, and he's probably like over her shoulder, no, you click there.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Rain is like an old lady with their phone, yes. So what is it you were looking up again? Was it the tattoos?
Yeah, the tattoos.
Why don't you, Rain, give me a... I'm trying to think of what would be a good check for looking stuff up online. It would be an administer intelligence with a +1.
This is going to work with my -1 intelligence mod.
Do you have a -1 in administer as well?
Yes!
Good, see, exactly. But we gotta make you roll.
Oh.
Whoa!
Oh. Yeah, you come back in, and Rain is fumbling away on the internet,
She's
and
trying
Jason
her best.
Jason is trying to control her. You are aware that she clicked something wrong and that her compad is very close to getting viruses, and you're gonna have to fix that afterwards. Stuff like that. Like it's just a kind of a mess. But you definitely don't. You don't even get anything close to any information.
That's awesome. That makes me very happy. It was almost a critical failure too.
Almost.
That's awesome. So the only other thing I personally wanted to, I don't know if Tomas wanted to do anything or whatever. I just wanted to have a private conversation with Jason. But
go ahead.
Sure.
Converse.
So at one point I'm kind of pulling Jason to his side, probably in his medical area, where he's finishing his own shit put together with the new power fluctuations and rewiring and spacey shit. Be like, Jason, may I have a word with you?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
We're going to be setting out soon, and the task of this mission is going to be a difficult one, isn't it? Things could go awry, people could be dead, and we might be making some use of your medical facility. I suppose I'm boiling around to the point I want to get to is we don't currently have a first officer, someone to immediately take over when I were to be removed from command.
That won't happen.
We also don't have a first officer in case we need to, in case we come to drastic measures and we need to split the ship.
Right. Yeah.
So, I was curious as to who it is that you feel as though would be the best first officer on the vessel. Who your recommendations would be.
Have you asked Thomas?
I've had conversations with Thomas. Is that your first choice?
Probably would be. In terms of splitting the ship, would we split the crew 50-50?
Depends on the scenario, but that's not what I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about just general chain of command.
Well, I'd like to see Rain have a bit more responsibility. It might make her grow up. But quite frankly, I'm not sure she's ready for something like first officer.
Something like that's going to be too much responsibility. She'd crumble rather than grow.
Anna's not very good with people.
No, she knows the ship through and through, and you guys all have a strong relationship with her, but it's not necessarily a relationship out of that kind of respect, more of camaraderie.
That's a tough one, Davis. Honestly, I would say Thomas would probably be the best shout. However, Thomas wouldn't be in any position to command if there was damage dealt to a ship.
He's got a big mouth. I'm sure whether or not the comms are functioning, we'd be able to hear him.
Yep, in that case, Thomas would be my first choice.
I wholly concur. I spoke to Tomas. He contemplated it. He's already denied the position.
Right.
And now you see why I'm standing here before you asking your opinion as opposed to just resolving the situation myself.
Right. Yeah. Well, what do the others think?
I haven't asked anybody else's opinion. Asked yours.
I like to think I know you quite well.
Certainly hope so after all those years.
And that can obviously be useful in, say, a situation where we were to split the ship. On the other hand, debatably, I could be quite busy with my medical or comm duties.
I think Tomas would have an easier time giving commands from the engineering bay than you would from the medical bay.
I would agree with that.
I know this sounds less heartfelt, but it seems as though we're defaulting back to Anna being the best option.
Anna may grow into the position, and in terms of camaraderie, on a ship like this, that will do for a first officer.
At least for a time. At least until certain types of pressure cause a bend to become a snap. But for a time, until perhaps grows or Anna grows well enough in her own time. Maybe you can pull your own head out of your ass.
Maybe one day.
Less than likely.
I was wondering what you mentioned about you not being captain. Perhaps it would be worth not going into battle in clothes. I was thinking perhaps you might want to upgrade your armor, perhaps.
I do have my armor, as you know, that I was wearing throughout the military, but I have not upgraded it since my most recent position, which was not a field combat suit. It was a ship combat suit. Do you know what I wear for armor, Neil?
His armor's like the best in the party.
Yeah, it's woven
It's
body
real
armor.
good.
Yeah,
Right.
it's AC-15.
Yeah.
My armor's better. It's just my skin.
He's just below Thomas.
That's because you're one hard boy.
He's just a hard boy. I was gonna say
I-
tough lad, but hard boy
Like-
also applies.
Slight
You have beard power. Because like none of the other characters have beards. We're all clean shaven,
The
but you got beard power.
bullets get caught in it.
Yeah.
The slight redaction. I think it might be worth to make my life easier if some of the others were a bit better armored. Me included. I can't very well patch up a hole in Rain when I've got a hole in me as well.
No, I fully agree that it would be a good idea for us to. It would behoove us to reallocate some of our assets to better arm and armaments the crew.
And on that note, I would
Arm
have
and
to say
armor.
arms as well.
Very well then. I think I could handle that situation. Everybody else seems to have their hands full right now. I think I have the spare time.
If you're sure, that sounds like a good plan. Have you noticed anything different about Rain recently?
Yes, and I will be speaking to her shortly. I've been giving her space until we left dock. I figure she wants to open up after we're farther away from the others.
Why don't you leave that one with me? I have a responsibility for the crew's mental health as well as physical, and take a bit of weight off your shoulders. And he places a hand on your shoulder.
Ironically, putting more weight on his shoulders.
Yeah, he gives you like a nice squeeze.
Yeah, I say, I'll actually do like a little smile because the irony, and I say much appreciated. And that actually brings us back to the previous conversation. Scenarios like this, they would be brought before me, before the captain. That's how it is we ran the ship because of our personas. However, if we were to have you take that information, your analysis, and bring it to Anna, do you think Anna would know what to correctly do with it? Or do you think Anna would how do you think Anna would respond to having the information?
In terms of Rain's condition.
Yes.
And are we talking about Rain's mental state or Rain's ability to teleport through solid objects?
Let's run the gambit.
Mental state, she might take her out for a drink. Teleport, she might take her out for a drink, then get her to teleport.
Very
think that-
accurate, in fact.
So you think that sharing this confidential information, personal information of the crew, would sit well in Anna's hands?
Why don't I see what Rain thinks? I mean, most of us already know, right?
But you're
You
going to
all
be acquiring more information over time that others don't necessarily know. You do act as not just a physician, but sometimes as a bit of a therapist as well. And that information from time to time does get passed up the chain. And so therefore it will go through Anna's hands. It doesn't have to, but that was how we did things prior.
Yes, but your hands are a lot more competent than the captain's.
I understand that.
perhaps in certain scenarios related to health, we could bypass that chain of command. It's not unusual. I sometimes had to go to soldiers, commanding officers, to get them certain changes to their routines, as it were.
And we'll keep confidential information confidential. All right, very well then. How are you doing?
I'll be fine.
We'll be setting sail soon, so if you need a day, you let me know sooner rather than later. Yes?
Don't worry about me. It was just a shock.
It's kind of hard not to worry about you. Proximity and all.
I'll have you back when the time comes.
Never questioned that. I will then turn and leave the room.
And with that, we're going to take a break because I really need to go to the bathroom. I have for like 5 minutes. You won't stop talking. So I'm going to be right back. I don't know about you.
So then I go walk up to Tomas and I'm like, hey!
Now I'm going to go to Anna. All right. We'll be back.
Fuck rain.
A few
It's raining rain.
No.
Hallelujah.